I've been in several clinics where some change has been implemented, kind of from on high, and then we've had to adjust accordingly. And I've definitely been one of those people with a bad attitude about something new coming through. So I've been on kind of both sides of that equation in the past. Something that helped in my personal experience was letting up on the performance expectations during the period of transition. So for a little time, there probably will be duplication of effort when you're bringing something new in. And so you'll have to do things the old way and the new way just to make sure that nothing gets missed and lost. And so if you have to see as many patients as usual, but you're having to do twice the work, everyone's going to be scrambling and it's going to not be a pleasant experience. So just having a lower patient volume expectation for the first week of launch, or just letting people maybe have 2 days a week where they use the new workflow and 3 days a week where they use the old workflow allows them to kind of catch up and de-stress in between. Those kind of things that allow a more gradual transition seem to be really helpful. And in my experience, what people are primarily concerned about, especially folks who are on the admin side and maybe not the direct patient care side, they're concerned about their KPIs. So whatever is being used as the kind of outcome measure for their success may not be adjusted when their tools are adjusted. And so they're having to, in order to meet the same standards that they had to meet before, they're having to really emphasize a different part of their job than is actually their strength set. So I think whenever a new workflow or new tool is introduced, then the objectives for that department also need to be evaluated. And everyone needs to make sure that they agree on how performance is going to be measured with those new tools in order for everything to smoothly transition.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. It brings to my mind, and I know this does not translate 100% to the medical space, but the idea of hackathons, for example.
Mhm.
So, right now I'm in the marketing space, right? So we are also looking at, what we can get done with AI, but we also have a ton of ongoing work. So what we try to do, every once in a while is, okay, we shut things down for a day or 2 days and we run a hackathon, right?
Yeah.
This again might not always be possible for a medical practice, but like you said, 3 days to 2 days or some other ways to just create space for it, carve out time, or at least lower the pressure for results for a time as this transition happens, because the results on the other end of it might be much, much better. But you don't know that until you give it a fair and honest shot.
Yeah, and I also think, like, recognizing the sources of friction is very helpful. So, ignoring anybody's complaints or just saying, "Well, you just don't like change and that's why you're having trouble," um, is not constructive. But if people can say can kind of get together and say, "Here's what I've noticed that's different, and this is what's bothering me, or this is what I like," that does seem to really help. It kind of helps with the camaraderie within the workforce. And it also helps with just problem solving. So somebody else might have experienced the same thing that person has experienced with this new tool, and they may have already discovered a workaround or something that they use to solve that issue. And so just getting people together, again, giving them time to kind of connect on that human level and say, okay, things are different. As humans, we have this reluctance for change. How can we embrace this, or what can we do to make this better for you? Is hugely helpful.
I like that. Did you have any other advice? Because I was intending to make it one of the main parts of our conversation, the issue of change management, right? And obviously you can break it down into various other sub problems. Is there one we haven't touched upon as of yet that you also think is worth looking at, particularly for practice managers where they might hit snags on how to deal with them?
I like to put any type of proposed change into the framework of the quadruple aim. I don't know if that's something you've heard of, but
No, I
there's
haven't.
kind of four different ways to look at healthcare change. One is that you're improving the patient's outcome, the healthcare outcome. Another is that you're improving the staff's quality of life. Another is that you're making more money for the practice. And so each of those kind of aspects of that aim can account for why the change is coming through. Um, and I think if you kind of quantify those things for people, that really helps them justify what they're currently going through. So they get a look at the end goal and they say, now that I have the big picture, I understand that there's a little bit of give and take here. And although I have to do these three extra steps in my workflow, the patient outcomes are showing improvement. And so I'm willing to do that. Or I understand the impact on the bottom line for me to make this adjustment. And I understand the motivation for admin wanting this to happen. I think any kind of context like that is also very helpful. The resistance to change that happens usually happens because someone feels like the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and that may be because they don't fully understand the situation.
So I'm trying to stick to the metaphor here. The juice needs to be understood through the lens of not just what happens for the staff, but also for the patients, but also for the bottom line of the practice. And yeah, I think it goes back to just sound business advice. The more you can plug your people into how what they do affects the business in general, help them see the big picture. That can be really motivating for some people, that they see that there's a real impact that they might not see in their day-to-day work, but it does translate to whether the company can grow, whether it creates new opportunities for them, right? And hey, the name of the show is scaling practice management, right? So,
Yeah,
so
and
that can lead to greater
that's
scale.
one of the roles of a good manager, right, is to translate that down the line. Like, you don't need to show the whole spreadsheet to everybody, but just being open in your communication at a high level is enough. And the folks who have a need to know of the details can, understand it within whatever context you need them to understand.